we have to announce that today the first global emergency use authorization has been granted for a phase 3 clinical data-backed COVID-19 vaccine by the MHRA, the UK regulatory agency. We have started immediately the process of delivering our vaccine. I start with this one, with delivering our vaccine, and we expect that the rollout of the vaccine in the UK will happen within the next couple of days. Secondly, we would like to report that on Monday, building on our rolling review, which was initiated in October this year, we have formally filed an application for conditional marketing authorization with the European Medicines Agency, with the EMA. BioNTech will be the marketing authorization holder for the EU, the UK, and the US, and various other countries. Our esteemed partner, Pfizer, will do the marketing and the distribution in these and various other countries. Let me briefly show you a high-level overview about our journey in the last couple of months. We called our development program for a COVID-19 vaccine Project Lightspeed, because you can't go faster than light, and this was what we aimed for. This journey started in January this year and was devoted to the development of an well-tolerated and effective COVID-19 vaccine following the highest scientific and ethical standards. This was a journey of 10 to 11 months, which started with engineering multiple potential candidates, vaccine candidates, of which several entered clinical testing phase 1 in April this year. In July, we selected, together with our partner Pfizer, one of those candidates, the most promising one, for a large phase 3 trial. And in November this year, we could report that in this trial, our vaccine has met all primary efficacy endpoints. On the next slide, you can see that Project Lightspeed is in fact a global, concerted, larger-scale effort. Our phase 3 trial has been conducted in multiple countries, in the US, Argentina, Brazil, Germany, South Africa, and in Turkey. The phase 3 trial has reached the final endpoints in mid-November. In addition to that, we have regulatory submissions on a rolling basis ongoing, not only in the EU, but also additional countries such as Canada and Australia. We have, in addition, an application at the US FDA for emergency use authorization of our vaccine in the US, and we are awaiting decisions by the FDA mid of December. And this is also the time horizon in which we expect decisions of the EMA on our conditional marketing authorization application. We have ongoing trials in Japan, and together with our partner Fosun, we have an ongoing phase 2 trial with BNT162b2, our vaccine, in China. And on top of this program, there are rolling submissions to further countries planned. In our controlled, randomized, blinded phase 3 trial, BNT162b2 was tested, 2 injections of the vaccine 21 days apart at a relatively low dose of 30 mg as compared to placebo. Healthy participants were eligible for this clinical trial. In total, more than 1,000 subjects were immunized, mostly 18 to 85 years of age. An independent data monitoring committee assessed the efficacy of our vaccine. The efficacy was assessed based on the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases starting 7 days after the second injection. In the placebo arm, 162 cases of COVID were reported, while in the arm with vaccinated subjects, we counted 8 cases. This is a vaccine efficacy of 95%. You can see on this slide that this high vaccine efficacy was observed across all subpopulations, including all age groups, also including older adults of 65 years and higher age, across ethnicities and also across genders. The independent data monitoring committee did not note any serious safety concerns. In fact, our vaccine was well tolerated. We observed the common reactions you would have with vaccination, including pain at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle pain. Mostly and generally, these reactions were mild to moderate and short-lived. Adverse events of grade 3 were very rare. We observed only fatigue in 4% of participants and a headache in 2% of participants, and about 98% of participants who received the first dose came back for the second shot. We will continue to follow up the participants in our clinical trials for efficacy and also for safety for 2 years. And will report on our observations as they come up. With this, I would then hand over to Ugur.
Yeah, thank you, Özlem. I'm Ugur Sahin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of BioNTech, and I would like to give you a background about the science behind our messenger RNA vaccines, and would also like to introduce you useful background information about messenger RNA as a molecule. So messenger RNA is a new drug entity. So it is not yet approved, and if this vaccine is going to be approved, it will be the first messenger RNA drug which would be available as a pharmaceutical product. However, messenger RNA is a well-known molecule. It's actually the first molecule of life. It emerged many billion years ago, and every human being, every animal has messenger RNA in the cells. So messenger RNA is an intermediate molecule. So many people know DNA, which has the stable genetic information. And messenger RNA is produced in cells, and after being produced, it serves as a template to make proteins. But what is important is not a stable molecule. It's active only for a few days and is degraded by the cellular machinery within a few days. And our messenger RNA, which we use for making the BNT162b2 vaccine, mimics the natural mRNA molecule, and it has no other components than the naturally well-known molecules. It is transiently active like any other natural messenger RNA. It encodes the spike protein, and it's then thereafter rapidly degraded within a few days. So why is messenger RNA such a powerful solution for this pandemic? Yeah? So it is a molecule which is studied by research more than 50 years, including basic research, applications, as well as clinical research. Messenger RNA molecules are tested in clinical studies for more than 20 years. And the role for this pandemic is based on the simple use of this technology to make a vaccine. Actually, what we do is we take a piece of the genetic information of the SARS-CoV-2 virus and encode this information using our messenger RNA platform. Then this messenger RNA is formulated with lipids to make a lipid nanoparticle. And this lipid nanoparticle protects the messenger RNA so that it is not degraded. And it allows also to deliver the messenger RNA to specialized cells in the body, which helps us to mount a strong immune response. And after delivery, the delivery is done by intramuscular injection. After a few days, the messenger RNA is degraded. What is important is that this is one of the most precise vaccine technologies. It is important that this type of technology is really free of virus. It is precise. The immune response of the immunized person is directed only against the coronavirus and not against anything else. It does not integrate into the DNA. And of course, it is only transiently active and not non-infectious. Another advantage is that we can scale up the production to produce many millions of doses. Actually, our goal is to produce more than 1.3 billion doses in 2021, and my colleague Sean will provide you more background of this. This slide explains what is important to understand why messenger RNA vaccines work. So the lipid nanoparticle with the messenger RNA is taken up by specialized cells, and then the messenger RNA by the cells is translated into the spike protein, which is the protein which makes the virus enter into human cells. So we get an immune response by so-called T cells, which are able to see the virus inside of cells and eliminate the cells. And we get antibody responses, which bind to the spike protein and prevent the virus from infection of human cells. It is important that this type of vaccine induces also a memory immune response. So that means the immune response that is generated could stay for months, maybe even years, to protect the vaccinated individual against a SARS-CoV-2 infection. In the last 11 months, we not only did the clinical trial and evaluated the safety of the molecule, but we analyzed this mode of action, and we determined that our vaccine, BNT162b2, is indeed able to induce strong antibody responses and strong T-cell responses. We have evaluated the safety of the vaccine using a range of different assays in different species, and we evaluated the vaccine in the early phase in younger and older adults to identify a safe and highly active dose. And based on this research, we were able to start the phase 3 clinical trial, which Özlem has just explained a few minutes before. So Sean is continuing now with the distribution of the vaccine.
Yeah, thank you, Igor. I'm Sean Marett, and a significant infrastructure to help us to do that. The first one is Pfizer, which is a partnership we set out in the spring of this year. Pfizer, of course, is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. It's present in more than 120 countries, and it has a tremendously successful track record of building leading vaccine franchises and numerous approvals of vaccines, including, of course, Prevnar. This expertise also extends to cold chain shipping. and global logistics infrastructure to ensure that we can get the vaccine to everyone very, very quickly. And together with our partner, of course, this is our first vaccine. We're testing second generation vaccine candidates that are in the clinic and formulations too. Our partnership in China is with Fosun, one of the largest Chinese pharmaceutical companies with over 28,000 employees, really providing end-to-end capabilities in China with significant coverage of the country, covering up to 33 of the 34 provinces. Again, chosen to really help us get this vaccine to everyone as quickly as we can in China. Okay, so we just move on. So just looking at our global commitments to date, I think the important numbers to focus on here really are that we've, together with our colleagues at Pfizer, signed commitments to more than 570 million doses, committed in 2020 and 21, with an additional 600 million doses reserved as an option. These numbers change every day at the moment. We are in additional discussions with a number of countries which we're adding to our list. And you can see on the right there boxes showing just what we've committed by which region. But the most important thing is that what we're trying to do here is really serve everyone worldwide in the best way that we can. Okay, so moving on to cold chain supply. This is being developed specifically for the UK because we're talking in particular about the UK today. The doses that we have for the UK are currently being packed in our colleagues at Pfizer, the facility in Belgium, ready for shipping very, very quickly. These go into what we call shippers. These are thermo boxes that allow between 1,000 and 5,000 doses, which we will either ship to the UK via lorry or by plane, whatever's most appropriate. These boxes are temperature controlled in that we have a tracker to provide minute-by-minute information on the temperature before we deliver it then to the site of distribution in the UK or injection. Just some facts about the vials themselves. I mentioned that the trays can take up to 1,000 doses. One vial is one tray of vaccine is sufficient for at least 100 people. Each vial contains 5 doses, diluted with normal saline solution, and as per World Health Organization regulations, needs to be used within 6 hours, which is perfectly possible and more than enough to vaccinate 5 people from the vial. So just a little bit about administration. This is no different than any other vaccination. You go to your center, you roll up your sleeve, and you receive in the arm an injection at room temperature of this vaccine diluted in saline. It's as simple as that. And storage is in delivery boxes. Together with Pfizer, we've developed some flexible solutions for that. You can store in the shipper at -70 for up to 15 days. If you re-ice every 5 days, you can open and close the box twice a day by doing that, taking vials out. And this gives, of course, everyone flexibility because you just need the shipper and you can put it on a table and then take the vials out. And in addition to that, if you so choose, you can take these vials out of the box and put them in the fridge and keep them stable in the fridge for 5 days, a fridge at 2 to 8 degrees C. In addition to that, we've worked on really looking at transport and how transport might affect the stability of the vaccine if we defrost it and transported it 2 to 8. And we've done this really to consider some of those satellite centers which everyone wants to reach, and particularly care homes, where you may not want to transport those people in the care homes to a center, but rather the other way round. There we have stability studies now really supporting the evidence for being able to transport up to 6 hours at 2 to 8 degrees. So you can really take vials from a vaccination center, one of the large ones, put them in a bag at 2 to 8 degrees C, and take them to the care homes where they can be administered directly to the patients there. So the UK is the first approval today. Of course, we're absolutely delighted about that. We're not stopping there. Of course, we have the United States review on the 10th of December. European Union here is expected to come to a decision in December, and we expect further regulatory discussions with a number of regulatory parties and bodies across the world in the coming weeks and months. It's worth saying that, again, we're deeply involved with the regulatory authorities. BioNTech being marketing authorization holders means that we have a responsibility, of course, together with our partners, but primarily BioNTech is responsible for this product and owns this product in the United States, Europe, and the United Kingdom, as well as Canada and other countries. So with that, I think we can then move into any questions and answers, or questions you may have and answers we may give.
Thank you, Özlem, Ugur, and Sean. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now happy to take your questions. And to ask a question, please use the chat function and type in your question. Thank you. So the first question is from ITV. Is this the first mRNA vaccine that you or anyone else have had approved?
Yes, it is.
And a question from Sky News. How important is it in your mind that other vaccines are approved in order to support this program?
I think the question is how quickly can we get back to normal life again? And all of the vaccines that will be approved, we hope will be able to contribute to that. That's certainly how we see it.
And a follow-up question from Sky News. Great news for the UK approving the vaccine. Your hard work is going global now. How does that feel?
Actually, I don't think we've had time to think about it, but because we're too busy packing vials for shipping to the UK with our colleagues at Pfizer.
Then another question from the German media outlet Deutsches Ärzteblatt. Could you please clarify, the vaccine can be stored in the fridge for 5 days at 2 to 8 Celsius degree, but only 6 hours also at 2 to 8 Celsius degree. If you want to bring it to care homes?
Yeah, just to clarify that. So what we're saying is that if you store the vaccine in a fridge, you can store it for up to 5 days. If you want to take some of those vials out of the fridge containing the vaccine and ship them to a local care home, then you have to do that within 6 hours at 2 to 8. At least that's the transport studies that we have done to support that. So there's the difference. One is pure storage and take out and use for the patient. The other is to put it in a van and deliver those vaccines to a care home. So there you need to deliver within 6 hours at 2 to 8 and use the vaccine thereafter.
Then a question about mRNA from the Wall Street Online. For how long have you been researching mRNA injections in humans, and what was the first year of injection?
So we are studying messenger RNA vaccines in clinical testing since 2013. Most of our clinical trials so far have been in patients with cancer.
And then a question about the side effects. Are headache and fatigue really grade 3 adverse effects?
Yes, in general, what you do in clinical trials is to grade each type of symptom, and grade 3 for a number of symptoms, including headache and fatigue, means that your everyday life is somehow constrained by these symptoms. So it's not about is headache and fatigue a grade 3 symptom, but more about how is the impact in everyday life.
And do you have data to provide on severe cases of COVID-19 during the phase 3? Were there any in both BioNTech or control arms?
Yes, there were 10 cases in our clinical trial. One of those was in the vaccine arm.
And how well does your vaccine adapt to a mutation version of COVID-19 virus?
Yeah, we have tested more than 20 variants of the virus with mutations and have observed that immune responses induced by our vaccine could neutralize all of the so far evaluated vaccine mutations. So we are confident that using the spike protein, the full spike protein as a target allows really to control not only the currently available mutants, but also mutants which may come up in the next 12 months.
We then have a question from the German public radio DLF on the UK. How many doses will be delivered to the UK? How many doses will be available in the EU right after approval?
This question is clearly partly dependent on our production output. We have allocated doses across various jurisdictions, and I think what we've said is that clearly we will distribute as many doses as we can, as quickly as we can, to those jurisdictions that approve this drug. And consequently, I think that it's fair to say that we have in our production plan till the end of the month, so just for this month, till the end of the month, including those vaccines that we've already produced at risk, up to 50 million doses to distribute across the jurisdictions that approve the product this month.
Then a follow-up question on that one from the German newswire DPA. Will all available stocks go to the UK? Can BioNTech and Pfizer produce enough and fast enough vaccine in order to be able to deliver sufficient stocks to Germany if EMA approves?
First of all, the answer is that we set out at the beginning to deliver this vaccine to the world, and that means fair allocations across all countries that wish to have our vaccine. So no, not all of the doses that we produce go to the UK. The UK gets, like every country, a fair proportion. With respect to manufacturing and what we plan, of course we have 6 factories currently active with respect to manufacturing, and we expect to continue to increase our output such that we will achieve a total number of doses of 1.3 billion in 2021. That is the plan.
And a question from Politico. What is the process in the UK for the vaccine to get full approval beyond emergency use?
So it should be emphasized that the UK has special conditions, like some other countries, for emergency use. And this is a temporary approval to allow rapid administration to a population. We, of course, plan to have full licensure and approval of this vaccine in due course.
Then another question from the Wall Street Journal on the regulators. Why was MHRA able to act faster than FDA and EMA? Do you have different experience with the different regulators in terms of procedures and questions, etc.? And if so, how?
We have very positive experience with all regulators around the world, including MHRA, FDA, and EMA. You have to be aware of the fact that also regulators are working on very compressed timelines around the clock, basically, to go through the dossiers, the data. We have to come back with questions for us to answer. So I would not see this as why was MHRA faster. I would rather see this as how fast were regulators in general, and as we expect decisions and that other authorities come back to us within the next couple of weeks, we have to say they all have been highly committed and engaged.
We have done a question about the supply agreements. With how many countries did you make contracts yet, and to whom will be the first charge of vaccine be distributed?
We've made contracts with over 10 countries currently, with many countries in the final stages of negotiations on supply. And I'm sorry, what was the second question?
Sorry, I don't have it in the list.
How many countries? And which one? Could you give examples?
Which
the
ones?
First one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So of course we have in the United States we have 100 million doses committed to the United States. In Europe we have 200 million. In the United Kingdom it's 40 million. In Canada we have a supply agreement. In Singapore we have a supply agreement under discussion. Japan is we have a supply agreement for a significant number of doses. So many countries, as I say, already signed with us, but over the next few days and few weeks, we expect many more to sign too. And as I say, this has been very much a process which is coming to conclusion now as we speak.
So the next question is from Sky News about the effect of the vaccine. How quickly could the distribution of a vaccine make visible effects on the spread of the virus in a country with a population of the UK?
So to really have every vaccine which reaches an individual would be able to make an impact on the individual, and we have evidence that our vaccine really does this fast, and we will publish very soon in a few days in details the observations that we made when protection starts and how effective protection after the first and the second dose is. It is important to have an impact on the pandemic. The vaccine needs to reach sufficient number of people, and there are a number of models indicating that an impact on the pandemic spread starts to happen if 30% of people are vaccinated. But we will have only get a full effect if we reach about 60 to 70% of the people having a protective immune response, and that should be the aim, to get this coverage until end of summer next year.
And how long does it take for immunity to develop fully after vaccination?
So our endpoint was measured 7 days after the second dose. So the 95% efficacy was reached 4 weeks after the first dose. So this is at the moment the time point which we could communicate. After 4 weeks, there is a full protection, full 95% of protection. But as already stated, we made the observation that some protection occurs even earlier, and we will publish the results very soon.
And when will we know whether the vaccine prevents people from passing on the virus and not just falling ill with COVID-19?
So the endpoint was protection from disease, and but we are also assessing in a clinical fashion biomarkers which could help us to assess prevention from infection. We will be able to discuss this in about 3 to 6 months from now, since this type of assays require more longer time for testing and evaluation.
And the vaccine is bottled in a multi-dose vial. How should dilution be done? Does the approval require the vaccine to be prepared under aseptic conditions like a laminar airflow system?
And no. You take the vial out of the fridge, out of the freezer, if it's a freezer, or if it's in the fridge. If it's in the freezer, it takes about half an hour to come to room temperature. You then dilute it with saline in normal conditions and administer it, and within 6 hours.
And another question from Sky News on the approval process. There has already been criticism that this approval must have been rushed through. How do you respond to that?
The MHRA has asked the same level of detail of questions as any other agency, and have focused on efficacy, the tolerance of the drug, and the quality of production. So these three elements are key elements to any vaccine that any regulator will look in detail to, and I think the MHRA has been no different in this respect.
Yes, I can second that. Yes.
Is this vaccine suitable for all people? Has the MHRA excluded any groups, such as pregnant women?
The vaccine has not been tested in pregnant women yet. This is part of a future development program. How exactly the MHRA will or the UK government will distribute the vaccine has not been commented yet.
We've done a question about the Marburg facility. Please advise if the Marburg facility production is included in the 1.3 billion guidance. Can it be added to the 1.3 billion, and where will the Marburg production be distributed?
Yeah, I can take this question. The Marburg facility is in part included into the 1.3 billion vaccine supply in 2021, which is addressed together with our partner Pfizer. As you know, we have also a partnership with Fosun for China, and the Marburg facility will also contribute to supply in China, so that the overall amount of vaccines that we could deliver will be significantly higher than the 1.3 billion doses which are announced within the partnership with Pfizer.
We've done a question from the German TV station SWR. How safe is the vaccine for people who have been infected with SARS-CoV-2 before, with or without symptoms?
We have included in our trial people who were and who were not infected with SARS-CoV-2 before, and we have not seen any differences in the safety profile.
And does the vaccine ensure that we are immune to COVID, or does the vaccine ensure a more harmless course of the disease?
So the typical function of a vaccine to induce protection, so that the immunized person is if infected with the virus is not getting ill, or it prevents even infection. And that's the role of the vaccine. It is not an viral. It does not replicate. It just induces the immune response. So it is somehow mimicking a virus infection without having a virus infection.
We've done a question about distribution from Bloomberg News. Is priority for delivery determined on the order in which contracts were signed, or are there any other factors in play as well?
The number of orders is determined, of course, by the government's request for number of doses, and also in a restricted environment where we as we scale up, we need to adjust those doses, then we consider the overall population as how we distribute the total number of doses.
And is there any data on whether the vaccine protects people with pre-existing conditions?
Yes, there is data, and we will publish this data in a couple of days, as Ugo has already noted. A fraction, we have recruited healthy people up to an age of 85 mostly. This also included people with pre-existing comorbidities and conditions which were stable.
Yeah. So, for example, people with diabetes or past cancer were included into this trial.
We have then a question from a Japanese newspaper. Why was it possible for you to develop the vaccine this fast?
So it is a combination of a technology which allowed us, the messenger RNA technology, which allowed us to move fast. It is our experience and the competence of our people who are skilled in delivering vaccines, genetically engineered vaccine within a few weeks. We have a personalized cancer immunotherapy program. And it's also a matter of international collaboration with partners bringing in complementary expertises like Pfizer, who have a fantastic infrastructure for clinical trials and is one of the most experienced vaccine developers.
And when will the data of the phase 3 be published?
In a couple of days. The first publication, and there will be more
to come.
Then another question from the BBC. Do you have a distribution contingency plan for possible disruption on the UK border due to the Brexit transition period ending at the end of this month?
I think we are distributing that product from our Belgian facility either by lorry or by plane. If there's disruption, then we'll find another route, and that's the principle that we are adopting. Most important thing is that we get as much vaccine to the UK, to their allocation as quickly as possible, and BioNTech and Pfizer are very committed to doing that.
And then a question on the trials from the Washington Post. Were there people who were administered the vaccine in the trials who still contracted coronavirus observed to have a milder course of the disease, or were there still serious cases?
So as already stated, there were 10 serious disease cases in the whole population. 9 of this severe disease cases happened in the placebo group, and only 1 in the vaccine group. So the vaccine is also able to protect from serious disease.
The next question is it known for how long the vaccine will protect against the novel coronavirus after vaccination?
This is one of the questions we will tackle in the follow-up of the vaccinated participants. We can not only say that when we have observed the respective duration of time.
Then the next question on BioNTech. How much will the number of employees at BioNTech grow in the next year? What do you expect?
We will continue to grow the company extremely rapidly. It's important for our business model and our development. We've grown with the addition of Marburg. We add another approximately 300 people to a 1,500 people strong organization. So we're currently at 1,800. You can expect that to continue to grow next year as we add additional infrastructure at BioNTech.
And another question on the trials. How will you monitor adverse events in this enormous rollout?
That is part of follow-up within the clinical trial. So for up to 2 years, in particular also in the phase 3 trial. We will continue to follow up and monitor for both safety, adverse events, and also efficacy.
I think the question was about people who get the vaccine in the rollout.
Oh, okay. There are programs in the rollout outside of a clinical trial, which are also conducted partly with the governments to follow up people who are vaccinated, also in terms of safety and adverse events.
And is there any difference in efficacy between different races, for example, Japanese and European people?
We will comment on that in more detail in our upcoming publication. Briefly, I can say we do not see differences in efficacy across ethnicities, across genders, across age groups.
And another question on BioNTech. How many people work for BN2162 in your company?
So this is difficult to exactly define since the project involves people who directly work for this program and a lot of people who support this program. My guess is that we have about 800 to 900 people directly or indirectly involved in the development of the vaccine and in manufacturing of the vaccine.
At BioNTech alone.
At BioNTech alone, and of course, there is at least the same number with our colleagues at Pfizer, and more than 300 people with our partner Fosun working in China on this program.
And how big of a role did you think the rolling submission play in the quick MHRA decision?
It plays an important role because, and this is the case for all authorities who have accepted rolling submissions, because that means they can start right away to go through the dossiers, review the data, come back with questions which we can respond to immediately, and this massively accelerates the process of assessing in depth the data we have provided.
And can chronically ill kids get vaccinated?
This is also part of our upcoming trials within this program. We plan to conduct pediatric clinical trials in which we also look into such at higher risk populations.
And how many teenagers has the vaccine been tested on? Has the vaccine been approved for teenagers in the UK?
The vaccine has been approved for adolescents at the age of 16 and 17 years. We have tested a couple of hundreds in this age group in our global trial. For the younger ones, there is not sufficient data. In particular, for those below 12, there has not been trials yet.
Yeah, and for the rollout in UK, of course, the government and the health agencies there will decide who will get the vaccine first.
Then a question on storage. Why do different mRNA vaccines have different storage?
You want to take that one, Hugo?
Yeah, I can take this one. This is so the storage recommendations are based on trials. So we call this assessment. These are laboratory assessment, which are called stability studies, and we did this stability studies so far to evaluate the stability of our product at -70°, and we have also generated data for 2 to 8°. And most of the stability studies are still ongoing. So in the next few weeks, we expect to get more data for stability of our product at -20 and potential prolonged stability at 2 to 8°. So there should be no big differences between the different messenger RNA vaccines, but the data needs to be generated. We have just to understand that our candidate was selected end of July for this clinical trial, since we had multiple candidates and we wanted to identify the best candidate. So the stability studies for this candidate started significantly later than the data that were already available for other candidates. And we hope that we will have more data in January, February, allowing us to relax the transportation and storage conditions.
And the next question is from Hessischen Rundfunk. A person has to be vaccinated with 2 doses. So the 200 million doses for the EU are for 100 million people, or the 2 shots are counted as 1 dose?
No, the 2 shots are 2 separate doses.
Do you research on other vaccines at the moment, or is BioNTech focusing on corona?
So we have programs, messenger RNA vaccine programs for also other infectious diseases. We have already an established collaboration to develop seasonal influenza flu vaccines with Pfizer. We have 2 other partnered programs with the Gates Foundation to develop HIV vaccines and tuberculosis vaccines. And we have a collaboration with the University of Pennsylvania researching early stage vaccines for more than 10 other indications.
And the next question is about Moderna. Is Moderna a competitor or necessary for a cure of the virus?
So, as I said earlier, we don't see this as about a competition between companies. We see us collectively as providing together a solution to end this pandemic so we can all get back to normal life again. And that's the most important thing to focus on.
And the next question is from CNN Turkey. What can you tell us about the long-term effects of the vaccine?
So the long-term effects are going to be investigated in our clinical trial. As Sam already said, we will monitor the safety and tolerability of the vaccine for more than 2 years after initiating of the vaccination. What is important to know is that vaccines are generally among the best tolerated medicines. They have, of course, a side effect profile, but most of the side effects occur a few days after the first and a few days after the second injection. So we believe that the technology that we are using, being a precise technology, using a natural molecule, will also in the long term provide excellent safety data. But of course, we can state safety only if we document the safety, and therefore the study will continue to collect more data in the next 2 years.
And what percentage of the world population would have to be vaccinated to be safe?
So this is difficult to estimate, but it is important that we have, regardless which region of the planet, we need about at least 60 to 70% of immunity. If we don't ensure that we have global immunity, then additional virus outbreaks will happen, and it will continue to affect our lives. So therefore, it is important to make vaccines available worldwide and ensure that people worldwide get vaccinated at least to 60 to 70% of coverage.
And in which countries have applications for approval been submitted or will be made soon?
In the United States, FDA is currently considering an emergency use authorization. In Europe, Europe is currently considering a conditional approval of the vaccine, and between those 2 approaches, there are a number of countries also undertaking regulatory review and approval of our vaccine.
The next question is on safety. Did you conduct any studies on genetic safety? Changes on the genome are a great concern in the population.
So messenger RNA vaccines by design, because RNA is an unstable molecule, and which does not integrate and directly affect the genome. Such studies are not directly required. But what we did, of course, analyze, and these studies are still ongoing, potential mutagenic effects induced by messenger RNA vaccines. And these studies are done for any other compound also. And since the studies last for at least 6 to 9 months, the data are not yet available.
So we are now taking the last questions for the Q&A session. So we have another question from the Netherlands. What would you advise as an information campaign against fear for or skepticism about vaccination, which seems to have been rising in developed countries?
We are probably not the experts to advise on this. We as rigorously scientifically guided vaccine developers want definitely to contribute our part to this by being very transparent about our data, and this is also why we want to be very fast to publish all observations we have made, and then everyone has to decide for themselves.
Then we have one last question. What percentage of trial participants got both doses?
More than 98% of the vaccinated.
Thank you very much. So we will now close the Q&A session, and thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.